Hi, guys. Welcome to Dead by Tomorrow Interviews. My name is Daniel Winter, and my co host is Andrew Monroe. As we explore different topics that are worth thinking about today, we want to bring in guests to share their own unique perspective. We hope you enjoy hearing from our guests as much as we enjoy talking to them.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We are thrilled to announce another special guest. This time, it is my own mother, Donna Monroe, and she actually gave us a bio to introduce her with, which makes my life a lot easier because we stumble all the time. It's a hard thing introducing people. So here's what her bio says. She's a follower of Christ, a mom of 4 incredible people, which I'm going to put an addendum on there that there's at least one of them, but she said 4. She's a bonus mom of 1+ fantastic son-in-law, and she's a crop insurance underwriter, an ultra runner, trail runner, adventure seeker, and beginning golfer, and is also a work in progress and under construction. So that's my mother for you guys. Probably a lot better than what I would have said. She was the person who fed me and beat me whenever I was being a little turd. So let's get this going. Mom, welcome on to the show. It's good to have you on here finally. I know you've been wanting to come on for a bit. So how has your day been? What have you been up to? All that kind of jazz.
Thank you guys for having me. And man, I surely am glad I wrote my own bio because that would have been fun to follow. My day, it's been a great Sunday. It's summer in the Panhandle. Started my morning with a run and church, brunch, that kind of thing.
So was it a short run, like under 20 miles, or was it a really short run under like 10 miles, or was it one of your long 50-mile runs?
No, it was short. It was 4 miles. Just I'm kind of taking it really easy right now. I say that as even though when I get finished with this podcast, I'm going to sit down and write my next training plan. I'm looking at the weeks, but I've been taking it easy since my last race. I'm going to say I had a little PTSD or something.
Gotcha. Of all of the stuff in the bio that you sent us, what do you most identify as?
That is a great question. I'm going to sidestep that a little bit and give you a longer answer. And Andrew knows I tend to give long answers, so I'll keep it as short as I can. Over the last, 4 to 5 years, I've really been trying to figure out what I most identify with. I've been kind of looking at my identity and saying, what am I truly? I am a mom and I am a runner, but when it all comes down to it, the bottom line is that I'm a beloved child of God, and then all of those other things go on top of it. So I'm most privileged to be a mom because I am someone that I absolutely love my kids. They are fantastic people. I enjoy being around them. And not all parents of adult children say that, but I really am. They are blessings. And then I really enjoy running. I really do it because I love it. It gives me joy. It makes me smile. So I'm going to say those 2 things. The other, I really do see that I've been embracing what God has for me. What is his plan for me? Because he created me to be who I am at this very specific time, at this very specific place. And so I want to make sure that I am fulfilling that identity. I would say those are my top 3.
I wanted to dive a little bit into the racing piece just because that's the one that I feel like I know the least about. And obviously I've known Andrew forever, and so by proxy have known you for quite a while, Donna. And I don't remember when Andrew and I were sleeping over, you coming back and just having finished up like crazy long runs or anything like that. So at what point did that start to become a part of your life? What was the catalyst that started that?
Oh, that's a great question. So, yes, but when you guys were in school, and I was trying to think, Daniel, when I first met you, and I was like, I can't even remember. It just seems like forever. So, I was a sprinter in school. And so, long distances, something over a 5K, which is 3.1 miles, seemed ridiculously far to me. And so, I really didn't do anything long like that, but I would walk a lot. I would walk, when Andrew was in college, I would walk maybe 6 or 8 miles an evening, and I walked really fast. And then I started working at Get Fit, which is a local running store here in Amarillo. And I was just working there and just really enjoying it. You know, a lot of runners in the store. And then my life kind of changed. You know, I had empty nest. My youngest was in her second year of college, and my life ended up taking a turn that I was not expecting. And so some of the people that I worked with at the store were like, "Hey, why don't you come run with us?" And I was like, "I can't keep up with you guys." And they said, "Oh, no, no, yes, you can." And so that first summer, we would work on interval training. And so I would just run, do intervals, which is how you get faster and build your endurance. And that's kind of the beginning. So, and that was in July. And then by December, that was December of 2016. I ran my first 4 miles, and I was so excited and so proud of myself. And I was like, wow, look what I did. I never thought I would be able to run over 3 miles. And so then a couple of the people I worked with are big trail runners. So after Christmas, they said, "Hey, why don't you come out to Paladuro Canyon with us and see what you think?" And I was thinking, oh my goodness, there's no way. And I went out there and I fell in love and I loved it. And so that was, January into December. And by April, I ran my first trail half, so 13.1 miles. And then it just started from there. You just keep adding the miles. Now, I did say I never wanted to run a marathon. And then I helped coach running classes. And a girl in our class said, "Well, I want to run a marathon before I turn 50." And I said, "You know what? I'll train with you." And I was probably 2 years away from 50 or so. And I thought, you know what? I'll go ahead and I'll train with you. And then she ended up not running it, but I was already well into my training plan. So I went ahead and ran my first marathon. And then after that, somebody's like, an ultra is only 6 miles more. And I was like, you know what? You're right. It's kind of runner's math. We don't think real hard about the math. And so then I started training for my first ultra.
That's amazing. And I love just hearing anytime we have a chance to talk to guests that have a little bit more experience in life than Andrew and I. It's just really cool to hear the new experiences that come about, and the fact that, running distance was not part of who you were earlier on in life. In fact, typically sprinters, it's like that's a far cry from what you want to do and run distance. That's kind of where I'm still at right now, but it's just great to hear, approaching 50, there is still opportunity to pivot, to make changes, and that it doesn't all have to just involve buying a giant motorcycle that, stereotypical
The
midlife crisis. Right. So I know you've run a fair amount of different races, and I think trail races are so much more interesting. What have been, or maybe what is your favorite race that you've run?
Ooh, that's okay. So you actually nailed it. I'm gonna again come at this a little sideways. My favorite distance is the half marathon. I love that. I love 13 miles. My favorite trail run, which typically my trail runs are, I choose to run an ultra. All of my races honestly have a special place in my heart because I don't go into it knowing I'm going to podium. I mean, I'm not an elite runner. I am now over 50. And so I go with different goals in mind. It is all about, what can I accomplish? What am I able to do? And is this race better than the last one? So I'm going to say, I think my favorite race, for a couple of reasons, was Antelope Canyon 55K last year. And that one we got to run. We got the privilege of running on Navajo ground. So out near, it's Lake Powell, Arizona. And we ran it, I think it was the March 12th or 13th, somewhere around in there. So it was, to my knowledge, one of the last big races, the ultra distance, before COVID shut everything down. And so we were, it's 12 hours or so from here in Amarillo. And we drove and we're there for our race. Oh, it's the night before. They tell you all about this stuff, all your updates. And 15 minutes before he was giving us the update, the Navajo decided to go ahead and let us race. They were thinking they weren't going to because of COVID. So they opened up the slot canyons and all those things for us to run through. So that was incredible. The other thing why it was such a big deal to me is I have struggled dialing in my nutrition. And nutrition is huge for an ultra runner. And it was 34 miles. I ran 16 to 18 of those nauseous, very nauseous. And so, a little over half the race where I was trying to throw up and other stuff. And I still finished. I got fourth in my age group, which was pretty good. So to me, that was a really special race.
I just want to throw an adder in there just for color commentation because that's what I really bring here. Anytime anybody says they come at it sideways, and you two probably have the same memory. I don't know if it affects you the same way, but I always think of that part in Firefly, or maybe it was in Serenity, where the bad guy is talking about, or I think it was actually Shepard. I'm sorry. Shepard Book's talking about the Alliance. And he's like, they're never going to come at you head on. They're going to come at you sideways. And so whenever you're saying, I'm going to come at that question sideways, every time I'm like, oh, Shepard Book is right. So
you're right. He was talking about the Alliance.
So it's kind of funny. So anyways, Firefly, Serenity references aside, which I need to go watch those again soon.
Oh, yes. I love those.
As somebody who watched you get into this, what was interesting about you getting into racing was you were, like you said, you did sprinting in high school, but then as a mother, you weren't horribly active in a athletic sense. I mean, you went to the gym and everything, but you weren't, pushing the limits like you do now. And I'm not trying to be mean. You didn't do much for 15, 20 years there, because I assume 4 kids probably makes that difficult. So you touched on this a little bit with being at Get Fit, but how did you actually recognize the ability to find a new passion? Because that's what it really came down to. You were willing to take this later in life opportunity and pursue something that sounded hard and didn't sound, it wasn't hey, I've always wanted to be a long distance runner. I've always wanted to run 50 miles or anything like that. There was a point where you're like, no, that sounds terrible. I'm never going to do that because this is who I am as a person. And then maybe a year later, you had a completely different outlook on what your passion was. So how did you find this? How did you, I guess, open the door to let you find that kind of passion later in life? Because a lot of people don't have that ability to be open-minded about what they find and what they do. So was there any factors that played into it besides having, some introspection? Or was that all it took?
Oh, no, no. That would be nice. That summer of 2016, that was a hard year. And then Andrew, your dad and I got divorced. And so
What?
did you not know? So I came to a crossroads. Here I am. I'm 47. I have been my entire life, my entire adult life as Andrew's mom or these, all of these kids' mom or this person's wife. And you're right. I mean, so I either worked or I was taking care of kids or taking care of my family and doing those kinds of things or, trying to be the best mom I could be on any given day. So then I was like, okay, my kids are grown. My life has totally changed. I'm at a crossroads. What am I going to do? There's a path that a lot of people choose that can really end up unhealthy, or there is a path that I can sit down and I can say, okay, what is the truth about me? Where do I fit into life, and what am I actually capable of? Because I had to find a whole new mindset of courage and digging in and saying, okay, I've got to do this on my own. So where does that come from? Because I got married at 21. And so I prayed a lot and I was like, all right, God, I am at a loss. I need some help. Please help me choose the way I need to go. Please bring those people into my life so that I can glorify you and I can live the purpose that you set for me. And so that is where I was surrounded by people at Get Fit, and it wasn't just the people that work there. It's some of the customers, some of the other runners. It just, when you go through something like that, your friend group kind of changes. Just things get kind of strange. It's just a weird process, especially at the age that I was at. And so the other thing is, as I got out into trail running. So trail running is a totally different mindset than road running. If you ever watch people running a road race, they're very focused on point A to point B. There's not stopping. There's not, they're just going. On a trail racing, especially ultras, you walk some. I don't know if people know that, but you really do. And so you have to be very present or you will you can't be thinking about other stuff because you've got to look for the tree roots or the snakes or the rocks or whatever's coming. And so when I would go out to the canyon, it was, I called it my healing canyon because I would go out there and I was honestly just completely devastated in my life. All my plans, all my dreams, real or not, were just gone. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So when I would be out there and I think about, okay, God knows the number of stars in the sky. He knows all the sand. So I'm looking at the trees and the rocks and everything out there, and it put my life and my struggles in perspective. And so that's really what started it. I wasn't out there to try and do a super fast mile. I was out there for healing. And my running partners we're all pretty spiritual people, even the ones that are not followers of Christ. They're spiritual in their own way. And we have great discussions. We kind of solve the world's problems when you're on a run. And the other thing I realized is running at this distance, it's very difficult to be anything other than authentic and truthful because you're just so tired. If you're running with someone for 6 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours, you really just kind of have to speak the truth and be who you are, and they accept you or they don't. And you tend to go for the people that accept you. And I got comfortable with who I was, and I was like, you know what? I'm good with this. I'm good with who I am. And it's just been a process. So that's kind of how it evolved into that.
I love that. And something that you share that I think is important for listeners, regardless of where they are at in terms of faith, spirituality, like if you're a Christian, not a Christian, whatever it is, that's a central part of your identity, a foundational piece that is not necessarily dependent on you being a mom, you being a wife, whatever that is. It certainly influences how you impact those things, but it's that deeper level identity. And I think it's important to try to find out what your sort of central identity core sort of thing is outside of something that is primarily defined by other people, because otherwise, I mean, that becomes just an insurmountable life crisis if all of a sudden you being a wife or a mom either goes away or drastically changes. And so to me, it sounds like that's kind of that thing that lets you pivot into another space is the fact that, at the core, you did still have an identity to fall back on, kind of a foundation to fall back on. And then from there, sort of change what some of those other modular aspects of your personality are.
That's so true. I mean, you are exactly right. And the faith aspect, that's who I am. But there are people that don't believe the same way I do, but it's still it's central to their success in their life, whatever their endeavors are, for them to be able to say, this is who I am. And I'm going to own that. And I'm going to be excited for who I am and what I can offer to those around me and how I can be the best person I can be.
That is all any of us can try to do. I think if everybody kept that in mind, we'd have a much better world.
The other thing that made a big difference to me is one of Andrew's sisters has said for quite a few years that comfort is the death of progress. And so as I was going through this stage, she didn't live here. And so she and I would talk sometimes. And I just really kind of wanted to cocoon and not really think. And I thought, she's right. Comfortable doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't do anything for me. It allows me to wallow. And so I'm not saying I want to go live in a dirt hut or something. That is not what I mean by comfort. I'm just talking about what I find is comfortable, and easy does not provide a lot of value sometimes long term. I don't push myself. I don't see where I can grow. I don't see where I can help other people. There's an Instagram account I've sent to Andrew. It's called Wicked Trail Running. But to me, it transcends trail running. It's all about comfort is a lie and to push yourself. And I just, when I listened to your podcast and I read your book and, just conversations I've had with Andrew, a lot of what this guy that runs that Instagram page is talking about is the same thing you guys are talking about. How to be the best you can be. I'll send it to Andrew and say, hey, look at this.
I do love that page for starters. They're pretty good. I'm just going to give Morgan and Bethany a shout out, and I'm almost positive that had to be a Bethany comment because I don't think I've heard Morgan come to terms with that concept yet.
It was Bethany.
Yeah, I figured. It's okay, Morgan. We'll get you there. So that leads me into a question about what drives you when you don't want to do something, because that's important when finding a new passion, because as one of my favorite quotes that's come up a few times from Adventure Time about being bad at something is the first step at being good at something. But so many people, the older we get, do not understand that. And they think I can't do a new thing because I'm bad at it or it sucks. So what drives you when you don't want to do something? How do you get past mile 10, or how do you get past the perceived embarrassment that people have when they are out of high school or whatever it is, that people start worrying so much about being bad at something?
There's a couple of things with that. So ultra runners, it's called a DNF, did not finish. And as you advance in your distances, DNFs can be common. So I have to have a really solid why. Why am I doing this? And that why for me, now I don't know about other people's why, but the why for a 50-mile race is not going to be, well, I don't want to be embarrassed. Because if I'm there and I'm hurting because it's hurting, you are hurting, that doesn't work. So I have to dig in, and some of it's just I'm proving to myself what my body can do, because no one can take away the fact that I run these distances, because it's me and my body, and that's it. The other thing I do is I dedicate miles to people, because I choose these distances. So I sign up for these races, I pay for them, and then I travel for them. And at Zion, this last race that I did, it was very difficult. And I'm at mile 33, 34, and I'm like, where is that finish line? I mean, I am hurting, and it was a tough race. But I try and remember that I choose this, and I dedicate miles to people in prayer, because there are people that they don't get the option to run, or they don't get the option to avoid suffering. Maybe they have cancer, maybe they have something that they don't talk about. We never know what people are going through, but I choose to do this, and I know it's going to hurt. And so I ask God to let my suffering by choice alleviate that burden from them for just a little bit. And theologically, I have no idea if that's even valid, but I want it to mean something. I don't want what I do to just be about me.
I love that concept. I'm curious, have you dedicated any miles to Andrew over the years?
Yes, I have. I do for my kids. And we actually, my two main running partners, we all have kids, and we pray for our kids as we run, and our families.
Such a cool idea. Again, like, it's great to bring your faith in, and then even if again that's not somebody's thing, the idea of dedicating a mile to somebody is such a cool concept. I'll have to try that the next race that we're doing, because you're right. Like, if you're running it, and again, all of these races, you pay for it. You're paying to feel the way that you're feeling. But thinking through, all right, this, mile 13 in a half marathon, I'm dedicating this one to Andrew. And if I just imagine, like, Andrew's watching a tracker and thinking, like, all right, like, Daniel's doing this one for me, it'd be a lot harder for me to take it easy or to walk or things like that, because I know Andrew'd be like, what the heck, bro? Like, this is my mile, and this is what you're doing on it.
15 minutes, Daniel. I know you can do 5.
and that's the thing. When I'm at mile 30, and I'm going to use Zion for example, they're having a mountain bike race going on while we're doing our race, and I mean, this was a lot of climbing and stuff, and we went from mile 15 to 27 without an aid station, and it was hot, and it was a bit crazy. And so, I was really ready for something cold. I had water, but it was hot. It was like 90 something. It was hot up there. But so I think about that, and I'm like kind of whining, and I'll get back to that in a second. So I'm whining in my head, and probably a little out loud. And then I really I thought about a friend of mine that was recently diagnosed with cancer. And I thought, I mean, come on, Donna, get it together, because they don't really get an option. They don't get a pass when they get to the aid station, you know? So it, again, put it into perspective for me. I was going to get to an aid station and get some cold water and actually some Coca-Cola, but that makes me push a little bit harder. But the other thing we do is we have a wine card. So my two partners and I, and we only allow ourselves to wine for like 5 minutes total in a run. Sometimes that's 5, 6, 8 hours. That's it. And so that also helps, I think, with our attitude. We choose to not focus on the negative.
Physical, like laminated wine card, like once you wine, then you have to hand your card over to your partner?
No, we're just like, okay, I'm pulling out my card. We say it jokingly and, just kind of do that. But I like the concept, honestly.
Yeah, that's fun. So another thing that I know that you've started, and I honestly don't know how long ago it was now, but you run an Airbnb in Amarillo. You have your own Airbnb, and I know that Andrew also does that. And so this is kind of like, I believe, like mother, like son situation.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What was the hardest part of getting that started? What has that process been like?
Wow. The hardest part for me, aside from finding the right house that fit kind of what I could do and what my budget was actually pulling the trigger on it. I got the room all done. I got everything taken care of. I love details. So I did all that. And then when it came time to write the profile and actually turn it on, I just couldn't do it. So I called Andrew, or I don't know, we talked. And so he wrote it for me and said, okay, it's on. So that was the hardest thing for me. I was scared to death.
And now you make all the money in the world.
I really don't. There's so many now, and I just have one small room. So I took a big, long break during COVID. And then I tend to get long-term people. I just had a guy leave, and he's been here since January, and he was just delightful. And so when I have long-term guests, I tend to keep in touch with them, and they're just delightful. I've got another girl coming today, but it's not as lucrative as it was when I first started. But that's okay.
At 6 months is pretty hassle-free rent though, so
it is.
It's not bad.
He got a significant discount.
There is that. Are there any regrets you have with the Airbnb?
Actually, no. I really no.
Well, that's
I've
pretty
met
good.
some really neat people.
Not a lot of people can say they've done anything with zero regrets, so that's a great start.
I'm trying to live with very few regrets. I can't fix anything from yesterday.
No, some of these long runs, I don't know. But to each their own. So near the end of the podcast, and I know you've listened to many episodes, so this is no surprise to you. We'll jump into story time. Is there anything you want to share about Daniel and I, yourself, any other stories or anything that you want to throw out there to the world?
I was thinking, I remember, do y'all remember your National Honor Society night where I've got some pictures somewhere with your ties tied around your head? And then I was thinking, you're my oldest son. I don't have any brothers. My male cousin is 7 years younger than me and doesn't live close to me. So I remember you guys were playing tennis, and I don't exactly remember, but just based on what you were doing, I'm figuring you were probably about 15. But it was spring tennis and it was freezing. I was all wrapped up, toe warmers, hand warmers, gloves, hat, everything. And you guys were out there playing doubles shirtless. And so I just still think of that. And y'all were just constantly doing things. It just made me laugh. And I was like, what are they doing? It was so funny.
That is a boy thing, I think, but that's also, I think Daniel and I might have a little bit of an exception on being a little bit too much of a glutton for punishment in certain situations. So
I blame Andrew, for the record. I blame Andrew, and I also on some levels blame Joseph, because I'm pretty sure the main reason that Andrew wanted to do anything shirtless was because he was told that was like a trashy thing to do and he wasn't supposed to do it. So,
Daniel, I'm going to support you on that. Okay.
And there's an intimidation factor when it's like negative 5 degrees outside.
Maybe the fact that it's cold, but I think it's fairly negated by the fact that both of us, like if you combined the two of us, maybe we cracked 200 pounds, maybe.
Yeah, it depends on the year.
And then I'm trying to remember. I remember there was something. You guys always dressing up like ninjas. That was hilarious. And then I kind of remember something from ninth or 10th grade. I don't remember the full story, but maybe your world geography teacher. I think y'all got in quite a bit of trouble in that class due to your shenanigans.
To
So
say that we got in trouble is honestly just not fair to Andrew. The reality is that I did things and Andrew got in trouble.
okay, that was
That is
how I
true.
remembered it. But then I was like, am I just being that mom that's like, my child got in trouble, not when he shouldn't have? So that
No,
was
That was
my,
constant.
it's valid. In the I think the story that you're probably talking about, I do remember it vividly. It was world geography. The teacher was Mrs. Monroe. So I mean, Andrew, like you should have had maybe a little bit of grace just sharing a name, or maybe it works the opposite direction. But we had recognized a trend that it seemed like no matter what happened in the class, Andrew got blamed for it, and so we set about to just test like how far like would this go. And so Mrs. Monroe was over at her computer doing something, or maybe out of the room, and I went up, and this was back in the day when transparency slides and projectors were still a thing. So I managed to steal her transparency slides for her lesson for the day, and so I had them at my desk. And then she goes over to start her lesson, sees that the slides are not there, immediately asks Andrew, "Where are my slides?" Like didn't say, "Okay, who took my slides?" or didn't think maybe she misplaced them. Immediately, "Andrew, where are my slides?" Andrew, of course, like had nothing to do with it. It's like I don't know where they're at, and so we let Andrew kind of be in the hot seat for a couple seconds, and then I was like, "No, Mrs. Merrill, like actually I have them." And she looked at me, she said, "You don't have to cover for him."
oh my goodness.
And I was like, no, I pulled them out. I handed them to her. I probably even explained like what we were trying to do. But yeah, that day very clearly proved that all teachers are prejudiced against Andrew.
It
Wow.
was a talent I had. Also, I remember this a little differently. Everything is accurate there, except for I'm almost positive you erased the transparencies.
It's entirely possible, yes.
Admittedly, in her defense, maybe the last name did do it because all she did was just like, man, screw you guys, and like continued on with the day. In hindsight, she'd had those transparencies for years, like maybe decades. Like she'd been running her entire curriculum for years off of an order of using these transparencies, and we erased a day's worth of lessons. I think she
So
took
she
it
had to
pretty
go
well.
home and work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
There are legitimately multiple times where I had teachers say, "You know what? Y'all just do what you want for the day. I'm done. I'm not teaching anymore." Like that happened multiple times.
Oh,
Which
that's
really just
funny.
reinforced the behavior
100%.
because that would be a good day.
Well, I was just, earlier we were talking about me having 4 kids and, you guys are all really close together. There's just a little over 5 years and 3 weeks between Andrew and his youngest sibling, his youngest sister. So 4 kids, 5 and under. And God really was kind to me because I was young and just didn't know what I was doing when I had him. And he was just always such a really, really good kid. He slept through the night. He started walking early. He would go and get one toy out and then put it away. And I was like, man, I am a good mom. And then I had the others. And I realized that was actually not the case. It was just Andrew. And so all through school, even, he's one of those kids that he could just, they could give him the book and he could figure it out. So as he got into later middle school and early high school, and I had not ever had any conversations with teachers about his behavior. He was always just the model student and all these things. And so then it started, he was like talking in class and this and that. I mean, it wasn't anything bad, but it was just kind of such a surprise for me. And I was like, wait, who is this kid? This is not my child. But it was, as I stepped back a little bit, it was just fun to see what I realized his personality was evolving and just coming out. And I was seeing how funny and witty he was. So that was a neat progression. It was a big learning thing for me.
Everything but the math for starters on the learning stuff. Everything
Well,
else.
okay, that's my big regret is that I didn't play a lot of math games with you because I'm not that good in math. I mean, I did a lot of writing. I remember making y'all write during the summer and stuff like that. But that is my regret that I didn't push math more.
And also, I'm going to have my siblings on now so they can defend their honors after that. So sorry, Matthew, Bethany, and Morgan. Y'all are fine. Y'all just aren't Andrew. It's cool.
I'm just waiting for like the next family gathering and everybody's like, so did you hear the episode with Mom? Yeah, like Andrew over here, like the coat of many colors. I don't know.
Your name's not even
Prodigal
Joseph
son.
in there at all. Oh, that's funny.
Well, thank you for that. I'll hold on to it and keep it in my back pocket next time one of them tries to start stuff with me.
There you go. There you go.
Do you happen to have a challenge for the listeners? Is there anything you want to get across to our millions of audience members?
Yes. I would just, running like I run or just running period is not for everyone. But movement, if there is any way you can add movement into your day, challenge yourself. See how you can add that to your routine where it's just part of your life, like brushing your teeth. I just believe that it really gets the mind going. It changes your life. And so my challenge is start today. Don't wait. Start today and just figure out something you've never done before that you've always wanted to try and do, and just see what you can do. And it's okay to fail. You can't fail unless you try. And there is nothing wrong with failure.
I like it. That's a good one. Well, Mom, thank you for coming on. Daniel, thanks for putting up with my mother.
Oh, this was great. I was having to mute myself from laughing many times.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really do love your podcast. It's a lot of fun. When I'm running with people, they're like, "What do you listen to?" I'm like, "Oh, my son has a podcast." So I send it out to people.
As long as you remember that I'm your son and it's not Daniel, that's the key.
That's true. That's true.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for everybody joining. If you have any questions for Donna, we'll have a bunch of links on where you can find her and check out her Instagram and all of her crazy friends and all their running. So feel free to reach out to her and she'll talk your ear off about what you need to do right to go run untold of distances and everything like that. So for now, thank you for listening and we look forward to connecting with you soon.